Here we are. Woo woo! Once again, back on the Carrier Experience podcast. Today, we're twinsing it up
COVID
here a
special.
little bit. It's the COVID special, talking about the hardest lessons that I've learned while doing insurance. So tune in to find out more.
The Carrier Experience Podcast is a show for anyone who wants to grow their agency and be a titan of the insurance industry. Learn from a panel of experts who share their agency struggles, their experiences with the nation's best carriers, and share the marketing secrets that successful insurance agents are using today. Now, here's your host, the insurance bro, James Cias.
It never gets old.
Yeah, never gets old. I love it. The insurance bro. But speaking of bros, I want to give a huge shout out and thank you to you, my bro, for joining me today, even though you are stuck at the car dealership. What's going on with your car?
Just getting your typical oil change, but
Okay. Good
it's
thing.
one of those. It's one of those, like, everything slows up with COVID, and I thought it would be a quick, hour and a half thing, and 3 hours later.
Fun.
So,
Have you been doing all of your classes from there today?
no, I finished my classes and then came straight over here. So
Gotcha.
I thought I would have enough time to get back, but it didn't happen today. That's just the way we roll.
Well, it happens. Well, if they pull you away, if you got to get going, then so be it. I'm just going to jump into episode 9 today. First of all, thank you, everybody. Again, welcome. I'm not going to do this. I'm not stuck at the car dealership. I was just, going to start it off
Trying to
with
make
a little...
it feel better.
Yeah, trying to make you feel better. I wanted to twinsy it up a little bit, get some business bros on the Insurance Bro Show over here. But, huge shout out and thank you again, as always, to everybody who is so kind as to tune in today. Last week, I kind of dove into a little bit of this stuff, and I'm going to get a little bit deeper. Excuse me. A little bit deeper on some of the hardest lessons that I've learned while doing insurance. Now, our guest that we talked to last week, Mike Fusco, you remember how long he said he's been in the insurance industry?
No, I don't remember. You said like 10 years, maybe? I don't
19
remember exactly.
years.
19 years.
19
Man,
years.
flies.
And then I think about our company president, Mr. Joe Zeller. How long do you know how long he's been in insurance?
He was in insurance 20 years when we got started, so he's probably up there now. I think it was 15 years when we got started.
So he's about 25, 26 years?
25 years, yeah. Something like that.
So I've been in the insurance industry for 6 years. I'm a baby, right? Like, in the grand scheme of things, I'm a baby in the insurance space. But I still have learned a lot, even in these 6 years. We've talked a little bit about where I started, where I came from, the things that I had to do to get to where I'm at today. I'll just kind of briefly touch on some of this stuff. So I came in with zero experience whatsoever, just kind of, all right, I'm out of the Navy now. I'm going to start doing insurance. Cool. Within 8 months, you and I bought an office, and that office was a mess, and I had to take it from this horrible office where people were walking into the office and saying, why isn't my insurance paid? I gave the guy that was here before $500 and trying to figure out all of those messes, to get into a point where I teach insurance to agents. You know what I'm going to do, just to clear up the background noise? I'm going to mute you, and then if you want to say something, just unmute yourself. So I went from, taking over that office and doing all of those things at that office, to teaching insurance agents here in our agency. So I wrote all of those SOPs, and I wrote all of those processes, and I just had to teach them to a bunch of brand new agents who were even greener and fresher than I was. I mean, here I was 2 years, 3 years an agent, and I'm teaching new agents how to do this stuff. And mind you, nobody taught me either. So everything that I've learned just from my own experience. But luckily, as part of the pipeline team, you get to learn from my 6 years of experience. And, of course, I'm taking as much knowledge as I can from those that have been here longer than me. So after all of that, I'm teaching not just our agents, but I start teaching over at the micro schools as well, teaching the licensing classes, which was super cool and super awesome to have all of the legal know-how, right? All of the legal knowledge of what the Department of Insurance is actually asking for, looking for, all this good stuff. So a lot of education that I've gone through to get to this point where I am today. But some of the hardest lessons that I had to learn that just weren't taught to me were things that, how do I say? I mean, they weren't taught to me. They were things that I had to learn from experience. And I wish that somebody had given me this knowledge ahead of time, not just the knowledge, but the training as well. So it's really exciting to be part of an organization or leading an organization that is providing this to our brand new agents. So the first thing that I had to learn that I wish somebody had told me, the hardest lesson that I had to learn was to sell on coverage and not on price. Mike talked about this when he was on the show last week, and I'm sure that as we start to interview more and more people, we're going to hear more about this: sell on coverage and not on price. Our sales coach, Suzanne Romo, likes to say that if you sell on price, you die on price. And that is invariably true. If you're the type of agency that wins by getting a policy that's $5 cheaper than the other guy, then as soon as that customer finds a policy that's $5 cheaper than yours, they're going to move, because that's what those customers do. But when we talk about selling on coverage and not on price, it really comes down to what we are able to provide as insurance agents, as trusted advisors, when we're bringing value to our customers. So a couple of stories here. The first one is, when I first got started, when I first was taking over that office, and I had a nail salon call me, a nail salon that had already been written. I didn't even write the policy. It was the agent before me that wrote the policy. But this is one hard hit lesson. So this nail salon, they had these chairs that had they get water. I've never gone to get a pedicure. Okay, I'm sorry, I've never gone to get a pedicure. But apparently, part of the thing that they do is they'll put their feet in like bath water and salt water, and soak their feet. And they've got these chairs that runs, water into a little pool, and that's where they dip their feet. Cool, awesome, whatever. Unfortunately, one of those pipes burst. That pipe burst, and the next thing you know, of course, it happens overnight when the owners are gone. It doesn't happen during the day when everybody's there and they can shut off the water and clean things up. It happens overnight, and so it seeps into the flooring. Everything's all messed up. The flooring's all coming up and bubbling up, and everything's just a complete mess. And as their agent, they call me and say, "Hey, we need some help. Come over here and check this out." They're telling us that none of this stuff is covered. And so sure enough, I go over there, and they've got all kinds of issues with the plumbing and the flooring and all these things. And they sit me down in this back room, and they have their whole policy all printed out. And they're like, "Here's my policy. Find coverage for me." Instead of finding coverage for them, I'm finding this burst plumbing exclusion. There's actually an exclusion for burst plumbing, and I'm just blown away. In the worst possible way, just blown away that this policy could be written, that these that the company would write this policy that excludes coverage for a burst pipe. And so these are the things that, as agents, it's really important for us to know. What are the exclusions that are part of the policies? Or better said, what are some of the endorsements that we can add to make sure that our customers are fully covered? The other one that I'm going to talk about is the OEM coverage. This is for your personal auto policies. OEM stands for Original Equipment Manufacturer. So essentially what we're looking at here is someone who has a loss on their vehicle. Their vehicle is damaged. They take it to the body shop. The body shop is going to replace or fix their vehicle, repair their vehicle in the cheapest possible way. And a lot of times that means aftermarket parts. So we had this situation where one of our customers did not have the OEM coverage, and they had a leased vehicle, not just a leased vehicle, but a leased Maserati. So a leased vehicle that was a high value vehicle, to say the least. And unfortunately, this customer did not have that OEM coverage. And so when they went to file their claim, the body shop went through and they were going to replace those parts with aftermarket parts. But that's a terrible situation to be in a lease, especially because that means that, when they go back to return the vehicle, now it doesn't have original parts in there anymore. Unfortunately, that's a situation that the customer had to come out of pocket to pay those additional expenses. Painful. And so these are the things that, as insurance agents, we have to be aware of. These types of coverages, these types of endorsements, these optional coverages are things that we need to add and give our customers the opportunity to remove should they so choose. That's what's going on.
And I've been saying it, Miguel. Huh? I've been saying it.
Exactly. We've been saying it. We tell them, and that's all we can do is tell them, is say, hey, these are the coverage options that are available. It's up to you if you want to decline them, but these are the ones that are available, and this is how they work, and this is why they work. So doing things like listening to these types of podcasts where we get awesome guests like Mr. Mike Fusco from last week, teaching us what a action over exclusion might be. If you don't know what these things are, if you are not including these in the policies that you sell because you don't know what they are, that's, it could get you in trouble. It could get you in trouble. It could get you, as part of an E&O claim, and, all kinds of bad things can happen. So definitely something that you'll want to look into, educate yourself about all of the different coverage options. Talk to your carrier reps, talk to underwriters, talk to everybody that's involved there to learn what those coverages are, all of the different coverage options that are available, so that you can provide an education and be a trusted advisor to your customer. So that's the first big lesson that I learned: sell on coverages and not on price. Another huge lesson came in 2017. We had to completely revamp our operations when we got hit in 2017. We lost appointments. In order to sell insurance, you need to be appointed, usually appointed by a company to sell insurance on their behalf. So if you're going to represent companies like Hartford and Nationwide and Safeco and Mercury and CNA, whatever, all of these different companies, most of the time they're going to appoint you or appoint your agency. If you do the right things by those companies, in other words, if you are a good frontline underwriter and you screen your customers properly and you maintain a good loss ratio, in other words, you're selling more premium than your customers are filing in claims, then your insurance carriers are going to be really happy and they're going to let you maintain your appointment. But if you're doing the opposite, if you're not screening your customers right, if you're selling, policies to customers that shouldn't be necessarily with those carriers, in other words, risky business, then you run a chance of losing these appointments because those carriers start to lose money. So that was one of the big things that we had to do in our agency, was to teach our agents how to screen their customers better. We had to just go back and rework the plan, rework the system. And we went from, basically giving the keys to the kingdom to every agent that signed on with us, to running our agents through a much more comprehensive training and structured graduation to be able to write business with specific carriers. in line with that, in addition with that, I worked hard. I worked a lot on upgrading and implementing more of our standard operating procedures in a written form. So nowadays, if you join Pipeline Insurance, you'll actually be able to see exactly what our standard operating procedures are. It's all in our written form, top to bottom. This is what we do for all of these different situations. Now, there's always new situations. There's always going to be, different things that we didn't foresee. But a lot of our standard stuff, a lot of our, everyday, day-to-day things, those are written down and everything's in there right where it's supposed to be. Automations is another thing that we started doing. And this was a huge lesson that I wish I had learned earlier on for sure. Automations is something that you, as an insurance agent, can use whatever technology tools that you have at your fingertips to make the retention process easier, to make a lot of things easier, in fact. So automations are small programs within things like your CRM that you have to, that will, what am I trying to say? That will automatically conduct certain tasks in order to make your job, your life easier. So for us, some of the automations that we use are around submissions, new business submissions. So as soon as a new policy, as soon as a new quote is being worked, we have an automation that says, okay, so within one day, we need to make sure that we have loss runs. We need to make sure that we have the classifications in line. We need to make sure that we have all of these different forms filled out so that we can start going to the carrier within, 2 days or 3 days. We have the follow-ups with underwriters if it goes to that point. How many days between check-ins with agents if we still require more information. It's all of these different things going back and forth to make sure that the business is being moved from start to finish. It's all the way through. So automations are really good for us when we're using them the way that we're using them for our submissions, but they're also really good for customer retention, which is actually the next point, the importance of retention. This might be one of the biggest lessons that I've learned when it comes to managing a insurance agency. It's one thing, and I'm sure that I've said this before, it's one thing to sell the policy up front. It's a whole other to maintain that customer for the long term. One of the things that I love about insurance, specifically homeowners insurance, is it has the highest retention rate. If you're out there listening today and you want to make your job really easy as an insurance agent, find a way to grow a book of business that is nothing but homeowners policies. Homeowners policies are awesome. They are typically impounded into the mortgage. So the insured doesn't even look at what the payment is most of the time. Their mortgage payment might fluctuate a little bit as the policy goes up or down, but their taxes are also affecting their mortgage payment. So we love those homeowners policies. The mortgage payment might go up a little bit, down a little bit, whatever the case might be based on taxes and insurance. But they rarely actually look at the policy. They rarely look to change the policy. Homeowners policies are impounded into the mortgage. So if you can get in there and sell 20, 30, 40, 100 homeowners policies a month, you're going to be in there. And they don't look, typically, our insureds don't look at those policies to rewrite them except once every 7 years. On average, once every 7 years is when they're looking to either refinance that policy, refinance that loan, that mortgage, or they sell their home and they need a new policy on their new home. So homeowners policies are awesome. That's a huge, huge part of retention. But the other part is the simple act of making sure that you're reaching out to customers. I was honestly pretty impressed with our guest last week, Mike, who mentioned that they do 15 to 20 touches per year. I, I'm learning things as we go here. 15 to 20 touches per year. Now that's a great relationship. Now, my guess, I didn't actually ask, but my guess is that a lot of those customers are the commercial customers. They need a lot more service, especially if they've got certificates of insurance that need to be presented on a continuous basis, anything like that. Our personal lines customers, it seems to me that we don't communicate as often, but it is definitely something that we need to be doing more. It's something that is, again, a lesson that I've learned, that this type of communication with our customers is super, super, super valuable. And again, going back to automations, it's a simple thing that you can create an automation for, to say, okay, so when I sell the policy, I'm going to send an email. Within 1 week, I'm going to send a follow-up email with a request for a survey. Within 30 days, I'm going to exactly automate those calendar reminders. Within 30 days, I'm going to reach out and say XYZ, 45 days, 90 days, 6 months. And then at that 1 year mark is when you want to have, at a minimum, that 1 year touch point where you go through all of their assets again. Hey, let's go through this list of questions that we have available for us here. Let's find out if you have upgraded your home in any way. Let's find out if you bought a new car. Did you buy any artwork or collectibles or anything along those lines? So all of these different things that you're able to do. And it also gives you an opportunity to cross-sell other lines of business. Policy density is what it's called. Policy density. So when you have a dense number of policies, when you have multiple policies with the same customer, you will have a much higher retention rate, because it's easy to just change one insurance policy and go to the other guy. But if you have a handful of policies, 3, 4, 5 policies with that agent, it's harder to move all of those policies to another agency. It's funny that I can sit here and talk about all these things, and they are, again, these are lessons that I've learned. These are things that, as a self-taught insurance agent of 6 years, these are things that I had to learn for myself the hard way. And I hope that, having this podcast and having this platform, that there are people listening out there who are just getting started with their insurance businesses, just getting started in their agencies. And, I'm sure that those agents are out there just trying to make ends meet right now. It's so easy to just be the type of agent who, I need to sell policies, I need to sell policies, I need to sell policies. And so you'll take those customers that are a little bit shady. You'll take those customers that you maybe don't have all of the paperwork that you're supposed to have. You don't have all of the required documents. Maybe there's, a name on the registration for that vehicle that doesn't match. And you're like, you know what? I'm just not going to ask this question because then I might lose the customer. All of these different things. Agents will do a lot to just sell the policy, and it does a lot of damage to their agency that they don't realize. And then they forget to do the follow-up. They forget to call those customers, a month or 3 months or 6 months down the line, and just check in to see how they're doing, to continue to build that relationship. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Hernan. Do not cut corners. Cutting corners is going to cost you in the long run. These are things that cause agencies to lose appointments. Trust me, listen to me. When you cut corners, when you don't do things the right way, when you're selling policies to customers that shouldn't be buying that type of policy, you wind up in a position where your carriers are unprofitable and they don't want to do business with you anymore. You start to lose appointments that way, and then there goes your insurance business. There it goes. Bye-bye. See ya. Flies away. Don't cut those corners. Make sure that you are keeping track of all of those documents, all of your required documents. Keep them in your agency management system. If you're not using an agency management system, use the crap out of the cloud. Use Google Drive or Microsoft OneBox, or Apple, I think, has a cloud, whatever the case might be. Keep all of your documents, keep a record of all of your conversations too. I talked about this last week as well. If somebody sends you a text message, take a screenshot and put it in their customer file. Everything that you do, every conversation that you have with your customer, keep track of it all. Is going to keep you in the best shape when it comes to any type of litigation. So those are the big 3 hardest lessons that I had to learn. Is 1, to sell on coverage, not on price. 2 is the whole revamp in 2017 after we lost our appointments, which is screening your customers correctly and making sure that you maintain a good loss ratio, using SOPs and automations to keep touch with your customers and keep tabs on the way that you are submitting new business. And 3 is that retention, that checking in with your customers. What insurance agents don't necessarily know up front is that it's one thing, right, to build the agency, as I said, by selling just as many policies as you can, but where the real money is in the retention. It's the compounding of your income. You sell, let's say, 100 policies that first year. That's great. That's awesome. But if they all fall off within that first year, you have to sell another 100 to replicate that income. Whereas if you are a master of retention, if you are providing proactive service and support to your customers and making them happy and thinking of things before they do and providing the coverages, selling on the coverages and not on the price, you maintain those 100 customers, you maintain those 100 policies, and the following year you write 100 more, you have essentially doubled your income. And every year that you add another 100 policies, you increase your income by that amount. That's the best part about retention, is that it builds your passive income. It builds a pipeline of residual income, and it's that compounding effect. Year over year over year, you get to see your income grow, which is a great thing that insurance does for us. Again, this is our opportunity to create wealth today and generational wealth for tomorrow. You can pass this business on to your kids, your loved ones, whoever you want to pass this on to. So with that, if there's ever anything that I can do for you, if I can help you in any way, if you want to learn more lessons from me, would love to chat with you, would love to help you out, would love to, discuss anything that you want to when it comes to insurance. Definitely follow me on all my social media at Insurance Broham. And if you want to become a pipeline insurance agent and benefit from all of these lessons we've learned and all of these systems that we have in place, go to www.pipelineinsurance.com/agent opportunities. That's wrong on the screen there. Agent opportunities. Pipelineinsurance.com/agent opportunities is where you want to go to become a pipeline agent. Other than that, I've got nothing else. Thank you all, as always, for tuning in. This week, we do have at least one more interview scheduled. And again, if you hear from me on LinkedIn, I'm sending out all these invitations to be on the show. If you're an insurance agent, if you're in the insurance space, I would love to have you on the show. Go to www.carrierexperience.com/guest and book your appointment today. Would love to chat with you there. All right. I think that's all I got. So again, thanks everybody for tuning in. Every single one of you, you rock my socks. You have my heart. And as always, have a nice day.
Thank you for tuning in to the Carrier Experience Podcast. James is a CEO of the Pipeline team of San Diego and is always in the market for top talent. If you are an agent looking for a place to hang your license, visit pipelineinsurance.com/agent opportunities or send an email to newagent@pipelineinsurance.com. You can find James on all social media at Insurance Broham.